What's up guys, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel, as well as welcome to my tutorial for my budget dashboard. If you are watching this video because you already purchased the dashboard, then thank you so much for your purchase. I hope you love it as much as I do. And if you're interested in getting it for yourself and you've not purchased it yet, it'll be linked in the video description. This is a long tutorial, so I have included chapter markers so you can jump around if you need to. So with that said, let's jump right into the tutorial. So when you first click the link in the PDF after you purchase the spreadsheet, this is the screen that should open. It says, would you like to make a copy of the spreadsheet? And you go ahead and press this blue button, make a copy. And you'll have to wait a minute because there is a lot of data in this spreadsheet, but give it a minute and it will open. And this is the first screen you will see. So as you can see here, it says, thank you for your purchase. If you cannot edit the spreadsheet, view only mode, click file and make a copy. So if you're in view only mode, you will see something right here. Instead of all these little icons, it'll say view only mode right here, and you won't be able to click or type into the spreadsheet. If that's the case, you just go here to File, make a copy, and that will make your own editable copy. As you can see here next, it says, please read, this spreadsheet is designed to be as user-friendly as possible. As a general rule, only type in cells that have a white background color. This is going to be your guide throughout starting to use this spreadsheet. If it has white background, you can type into it, you should type into it. Any cells with filled color, use formulas, or have specific titles already that should not be typed on. There is one exception, and that is for your sinking fund balances the first month you start budgeting. If you start budgeting mid-year, I will show you that when we get to it. So you can see when the spreadsheet opens, there are all these different tabs at the bottom. You want to start at this Inputs tab, and there's some directions on how to fill this out, but basically you want to list your income sources here, and at the first cell of each of these, there's some little notes giving you ideas and guidance. So you've got these 5 sections here: income, pay yourself first, which is for big savings goals and investing. You've got your debt, you've got your expenses, and you've got your sinking funds. Now, you can budget with a spreadsheet using your net or your gross income. So if you want to do gross budgeting, then you need to, as part of your expenses, list the taxes, health insurance, other expenses that come out of your paycheck, along with your normal monthly expenses. That's where I would put those. And if you are doing gross budgeting and you have 401k deductions or something similar, a retirement contribution that comes directly out of your paycheck, you can put that and pay yourself first. Also, it says here, please limit entries to the number of rows provided. There are 15 rows here to leave plenty of space for each category. Please do not add rows. And then last on this input section, you'll see need help. If you lose your link to this tutorial, you can just click here to watch the video tutorial again that you're watching right now. And if you still need help, you can actually hire me to work with you on your spreadsheet directly. All right, moving on to the annual summary tab. This is a really cool tab. I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit. And you can see this is not populated because I haven't input anything into the spreadsheet. But as you also can see, all these cells with zeros in them have color in the background. That means that you are not inputting anything directly onto the sheet. This will all automatically fill as you fill out your monthly budget. So you do not need to enter anything onto this tab. Okay, and then next, moving on to the monthly tab. So obviously start in the month where you're starting to use this budget, but we're just going to use January as an example. So this is what the monthly budget tab looks like. I just could not be happier with how this turned out. Just looking at it again, I just love it so much. And I hope you guys do too. So again, try to make this really user-friendly. Any cell that has a white background, this is where you need to put numbers in. So each month, the budgeted amount for income, for pay yourself first, debt, etc., expenses, sinking funds, you need to enter those numbers in manually. So whatever inputs you put over here, for example, for your income sources, see how it has income source 1, 2, 3, 4. Those will show up over in your budget, income source 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you budget whatever amounts you think you're going to bring in for that month. Also over here, this is another place you need to put in a number yourself. This is if you want to balance your budget. I'll get to that when we get to an example budget in just a second. Over here, you input all your transactions for the month, and they automatically populate in this actual column. So you're not manually entering numbers into any of these actual columns. You're just entering in this transaction transactions section, and those will all automatically fill in your budget. And then finally, you'll need to put the starting balance for your sinking funds for the first month. So we have a starting place. We know what your sinking fund balances are if you are using sinking funds. And then from there, subsequent months, you will not need to enter it manually because it will automatically take the ending balance from the prior month and put that as your starting balance in the next month. So you can see in all subsequent months, there's a color background fill, and that's indicating that there are formulas in there. So if you aren't starting to use this budget in January and you are going to be using sinking funds, so let's say you're starting in February, even though these have color and formulas, you need to override those formulas. And you'll see every month besides January, there's a little note right here that explains exactly what you need to do. Okay, so let's pop over to an example budget that I put together. I just kept it really minimal. This is not any sort of realistic budget, but this is just to give you an idea. So I listed some income sources here. I listed an investment and a house down payment fund that is in the pay yourself first section, a couple debts, some expenses, and 2 sinking funds. So I'm going to pop on over to January, and you'll see all of those are showing up in these different sections of the budget. And you'll also see that I filled out the budgeted amounts for each of these things. And this should be done before the month starts. So you budget all your income, and then you record the actual amounts throughout the month so you can compare the two. And the way that this works is there is a left to budget section right up here in the top left. And so after you input your income, it'll tell you how much there is left to budget. So if there was nothing else inputted, it would say there's $3,000 left to budget. And if I delete one of those out, you can see there's negative $1,000 left to budget. If this was actually $2,000, it would show that I still have $1,000 left to budget. So that's how that section works. And then as you input amounts into your budget, you'll see this dollar amount go down. The left to spend works the same way, but for the actual columns in each of the sections. So the way it works after the month starts and after you've budgeted all your money, what you need to do is you need to come over here and enter the transaction. So this is just pulling up your online banking and recording all the transactions that you see and right into your budget. So for example, let's say first you get paid. So you do this little drop down and you choose income because this is an entry for the income section. Then you go ahead and choose paycheck or side hustle, whichever type of income it is. And so here, this is the paycheck, and we enter our amount, $2,000 or whatever it would be. And so I've just done some example entries, and you can enter in a section more than once. So for example, we've got groceries right here and groceries again right here. And so we entered $250 and $50, and you can see down here for groceries, we've got 300 in total. So it'll total those for you. So if you spend in a category multiple times during the month, then it totals it for you. As you can see here, left to spend in this budget is $100. So let's say you hit the end of the month and you still have this $100 left over, and you decide you want to make an extra debt payment because you are trying to pay this credit card off. You can go ahead and come down here and you hit debt, and then you want to scroll down till you see credit card and you put in $100, and then you can see this left to spend has gone to 0 and the extra amount you've paid towards your credit card is showing up in the actual column. Throughout the month, you can take a look at what's been going on in the month thus far. With this monthly summary, there is the budgeted amounts for each of the sections, and that is totaled based off what you put in these budgeted columns, and then obviously the actual amounts show up here throughout the month. And then you can see a breakdown of what % of your income is going to each of the categories, as well as over here you get a breakdown of what you budgeted versus what you actually spent in each of the categories. So I feel like this is a really good way to see if you are overspending in your expenses or underestimating or overestimating your income, for example. See, are you on track with what you predict you're going to spend and what you predict you're going to make versus what actually happens. And then in the last part of this budget, the sinking funds. So this is a little bit confusing. This is probably the most confusing part of the spreadsheet, but I know you guys can get this. So when it comes to sinking funds, there's kind of a 2-part process with sinking funds. One is the funding of the sinking funds. And for purposes of understanding this, let's say it's a cash envelope. So if you budgeted $175 for the car repair sinking fund and you actually put $175 in there, that means you put $175 in a cash envelope or a digital envelope in this case for that purpose. But then let's say you also spend $50 on your car registration that month. Well, that wouldn't be recorded here because this is just recording how much you're actually putting into the fund. When you spend the money, that has to be recorded separately. So you have a starting balance of 0 in the sinking fund, and let's say this was 0 here. And during the month, you did spend $50 on actual car repairs or car maintenance or whatever you want to call it. So we put $50 here. You'll see that that will show up in this spent column as $50 and let you know your remaining balance in that sinking fund. This month is January, so this probably wouldn't happen, but let's say you spent money out of your Christmas fund. You saw something on sale you wanted to buy, so you spent on Christmas and you spent $200. Again, it shows up over here and shows that you have $100 left in your sinking fund. So just really pay attention when you're recording numbers in the sinking fund section to make sure you're putting things in the right place. Finally, here for bank account balance. So the way you can check that your budget is not missing any numbers and that is balanced with your bank account is if you keep all your sinking funds in your checking account, then at the end of the month, the only balance left over should be whatever the balance of your sinking funds is. And so if the starting balance of your sinking funds on the first of the month is the actual balance in your bank account, and then throughout the month you record your numbers, whatever the balance of your bank account is should match what's in your budget. I've got $1,700 in my bank account based on the numbers that I've entered. Oh, but my bank account balance is $1,725. So there's a difference of $25 somewhere that I didn't accurately record the numbers from my checking account to my bank account. And then you know to go back and double check and see where that $25 was missed, so you make sure that you get all of your transactions into your budget. So let's say you closed out January, you're moving on to February, you put in all your numbers for February, you can see your charts up here. You see the starting balance of your sinking funds automatically transferred over from January based on your ending balances, so you don't need to manually enter anything after you've done your first month's budget. And once you've completed a couple months of budgeting, you can come over and take a look at the annual summary, and you'll see that it's already totaled up what you have done so far this year, and you can check this mid-month or just at the end of the month whenever you want to take a look and see your progress. But because we've only filled out January and February, I didn't put any data in for March. This summary is only telling you what you've done so far as of January and February. So over here, there's the annual summary of what you've budgeted for income versus what you've actually brought in. And then the same thing as well for each of the other categories. It'll give you an annual overview of where you're sending your money. So let's say you had set a goal of putting at least 15% of your money to debt this year. You can see so far there's 16.9%. Let's say you had a percentage goal for how much you want to save and invest. That would show up here as well. So this is a really good way to keep track of your goals if you set percentage goals for debt payoff, investing, expenses, or sinking funds. And then it'll give you an overall summary of what you budgeted versus what you actually spent. So again, if there's kind of trends here that you are budgeting way less than you need for expenses, and this bar is, down here, and then this red one is all the way up here, you know that you need to take a look back at your budgets and make sure you're getting more realistic about what you're budgeting for your categories or find where you're overspending. And then down here, it'll also have an itemized breakdown for each line item in your budget of what you spent or received in total. So all those sections will be here. And then if you scroll all the way over to the right, you'll see this annual budget projections tab. If you click on that, it'll take you to this screen. And if you don't complete this, it won't interfere with the functionality of the entire spreadsheet. You can use the spreadsheet without using this tab. But I find this tab really helpful when you are trying to project out your year. And I love to do an annual budget before the year starts. So there's two ways I like to use this. One is before the year starts, I like to fill out my estimated budget and I put in all my expenses, debts, sinking funds, whatever I might have that year. Down here, there is a line that says left to budget, so you can see if you've allocated all your income for each of the months and if you're over or under. And so, for example, here you see left to budget 400, and then let's say you look up here and you say, well, I'm only hitting 11% of my income for pay yourself first. I'd really like to be investing 20%. What happens if I put that extra $400 towards investing? So I change this to 500 and I just drag it across for all 12 months. Then I can see left to budget down here is 0. So I've allocated all my income for this zero-based budget. And now, oh look, I'm at 20% for pay yourself first. So it's a good way to play around with the year as a whole to make sure you're hitting your savings goals or debt payoff goals or keeping your expenses at 50% of your income or whatever your goals might be. And it also gives you a little summary up here of all your totals. The other way I like to use this is throughout the year. If I am thinking about cutting an expense or adding an expense, I can put it in and see, how it would affect my budget for the rest of the year, what other things I might cut, or if I cut an expense, how much will it save me for the rest of the year? And you can play around with the numbers. If I think that, let's say my husband is up for a raise or a promotion or something and his income is going to increase, I can play around with the income numbers and see what that would do to our budget. If the income went up, how much that would help us and where we might want to put that money, and see what these percentages would change to. So that's how I like to use this tab. All of these labels will autofill from the inputs tab, so you don't need to enter those manually. Again, because they have a color in the background, you don't input anything manually, but you do manually input the numbers into all of these sections. And these numbers will not automatically transfer over to any other part of the spreadsheet. So if you complete that tab, you'll still need to fill in these budgeted numbers. It won't automatically fill into these sections even if you do the annual projection. This is just more so to play around with the numbers and to be able to budget all at once. And then as each month comes up in the year, you'll enter your budgeted amounts in that month and adjust the numbers to what actually works in your budget in reality. Next, if you scroll down to this tab that says annual goal progress, and by the way, instead of scrolling back and forth down here, you can always hit these three little lines and it'll show you all of the different sheets in the spreadsheet. But this annual financial goal tracking sheet I put towards the end because it's optional. It's something you can use if you want. It won't affect the functionality of the rest of the spreadsheet if you don't use it. But the purpose of this is to track your annual financial goals. And to make it easier to read, you can go ahead and hide any of the rows you're not using. I wouldn't delete them, but you can just go ahead and hide them. So I'm going to do that really quickly. And so now you can see here, you've got your income, pay yourself first, debt, and then expenses and sinking funds. And this will automatically fill, as you can tell, because it has color in the background of each of the cells, but you can set your goals here. So if you have a goal for your paychecks, you want to earn, $38,000, and then in side hustle, you want to earn another $10,000. You can put those there, and then throughout the year, there's this column percent of goal completed, and it'll tell you what percent of the goal you have completed at that point in the year based on the number of months of data you have put in. So as with the rest of the spreadsheet, you just want to fill in this goals column in the boxes that have a white background, and the rest of it will calculate for you. If you have a goal of a certain percent of your money you want to put towards your pay yourself first and debt goals, you can add that percentage in here, and then percent to expenses and sinking funds you could put down here. And again, just be tracking your progress on each of your goals. And then last, we've got this debt payoff tab. Again, if this doesn't apply to you, then you don't need to use it, obviously. But if you are working on paying off your debt and you want to track it, all of your payments that you enter in your budget will flow into this section of the debt payoff spreadsheet. And the only part that you'll need to enter are the numbers in this section. So the way this works is at the beginning of each month, you want to put in the balances of your debts. If you are starting to use this spreadsheet mid-year, then you just want to put in the balance in each of the months up until the current month. So let's say you are starting in May and you have a credit card that has a balance of $3,000. You just want to go ahead and put that in for all these months, and that way the pie chart will actually calculate. If you don't put anything in the first columns and you just start mid-year, the pie chart won't calculate correctly. So just put your same balances for whatever the current balance is. Let's say your student loan is $10,000. Again, you can just drag that over, copy paste, whatever you want to do, and just put those balances in up until the month that you're starting. So your balances as of May 1st would be $3,000 and $10,000, and then let's say you paid off some of your debt, so your new balances on June 1st are $2,800 and $9,800. You'd fill those in. And then the other thing you need to do is whatever month you just completed, you need to drag the formula over. This is the only part of the spreadsheet that is not automatic for formulas. You have to drag it over. See how that pie chart just updated? I'll do it again. Whatever month you just completed, you want the formula to be dragged over here, not all the way over here, just to here to the month you completed. So you can go ahead and drag this over
and your pie chart will update, and you want to just do that every month thereafter. So after June ends and you put in new balances for July, then you just need to drag your formula over and your pie chart will update there as well. And like I said, your payments will automatically flow over from the budget, and so you don't need to enter anything there. You're just entering your balances as of the first of the month each month, and then dragging the formula over one cell or multiple cells if you're starting the first month mid-year. You'll see up here, it'll have your total debt payments for the year that you've paid, the total amount of debt you've paid off for the year, your total debt left to pay, and your total interest paid. If you're using this spreadsheet to track multiple years, when you get to January 1st, you will take all your balances from January in this spreadsheet and you will put them in your new spreadsheet for the new year as the first column. If you have a certain order that you want to pay your debts off in, then make sure when you are over in the inputs page, you are listing those debts in the order you want to pay them off, because whatever order you put them in on this inputs page is the same order they're going to show up in on the debt payoff page. So I hope this tutorial has helped provide you with some good guidance as to how to get started with this spreadsheet. I use this myself for my own family budget and I have been absolutely loving this spreadsheet setup, so I hope you really enjoy it too. As I mentioned earlier, if you're watching this video but you have not yet purchased the spreadsheet and you're interested in doing so now, then the link will be in the video description. Thanks so much for watching and happy budgeting.